Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. I'm doing this video for you guys in response to a question that I got in one of my live streams about ferro rods and starting fire with ferro rods. Now, I'm going to really do a deep dive here, so this video might be a little bit longer. I'm going to try to cover it as quick as possible. But there's more to using a ferro rod than just buying one and then striking across the back of your knife and making a fire. There's actually a little bit to setting up a ferro rod so it will work for you when you need it. And there is some kind of techniques that make a ferro rod easier to use, which I'm going to cover. So this is a brand new ferro rod, and I am going to put links in the description. If you guys don't have a ferro rod, I'll put a link in the description so you can buy one off of my Amazon store. They come in a couple of different sizes, and I also have some other videos that are pertain to this topic. I will put those videos links in the description for those videos as well. But this is a brand new 6-inch by a 1/2-inch ferro rod, and this is the big boy. This is the one that I put with my larger knives, and then on the other side there's some 3/8 by 4. These are the two sizes that I use most, depending on what I'm pairing these with. And then this is the 3/8 by 4. I wouldn't go any smaller than 3/8 by 4 because you want to have enough material here to work with. Them really small ones that come in like these survival kits and stuff, they're junk. They're not going to give you enough spark to actually start a fire. You want to have enough ferro rod there to make a big enough shower of sparks that it catches. You want actually to be throwing molten material into your tinder so it catches. And the first thing is we got to scrape this black coating off these rods. And I got a couple here that I already got set up on my knives. Here's one. Here's another one here. But this is basically what you want to do. You want to set these up so they will work. So what I do is I'll actually take a little time and I'll scrape this black coating with the back of my knife off of this rod. This rod will not strike the way it is. You have to get that black coating off so it looks like sort of like this, like a gray color. And sometimes if your ferro rod is sit for a long time, it will actually oxidize, and that'll prevent it from being striking too. So you want to take a little bit of care with these. If you're going to go out on a camping trip or whatever, you want to take a look at your ferro rod and, make sure that it's going to strike for you. If you've got a lot of oxidation on this where it kind of turns to a dull color, you want to scrape that a little bit to get that off so you have a good surface to strike. Now, the next thing is you want to kind of modify these so they're usable. And this isn't anything new. Pretty much any bushcraft channel will talk about this stuff. The easiest way to go about doing is to wrap some tape around the top. And then you want a ferro rod that has a hole in it. You guys can see that there. So you could put some type of lanyard through it. And what type of lanyard that I use is actually shock cord. I will use a piece of shock cord, and I will use Gorilla Tape. The Gorilla Tape, pull the other one out here to show you too. And it has two different purposes. The Gorilla Tape gives you kind of a stop so you can push it into whatever attachments that you have to your knife sheaths, because a ferro rod really should go with a knife, in my opinion. I think any serious outdoor knife should have the ability to make a fire as well. So you're going to wrap a little bit of tape around the top edge, and then you're going to put a piece of shock cord through the top edge of this. And then that way, with my kind of improvised holders here for my ferro rods, you can slide your rod in like so, and then you can take the shock cord and put it over so it doesn't back out on you. Now, to make a holder for your knife, what I do is I get nylon cable holders. That's what they look like. They're for like automotive applications. You can get these at any hardware store that has decent, hardware stuff in it. And then I get a couple of machine screws and a couple of nuts. These are actually lock nuts, nylon lock nuts. You can also just use regular nuts, or you can use Chicago screws. There's a bunch of different ways you can do it. If you're not going to use some type of lock nut, you want to put a little Loctite on that so that doesn't back out. And you got to have 2 of them so you got enough stability to hold that. This setup right here is years old, and I have never had a problem with it. These nylon ones, I've been out winter camping and everything, and I've never had an issue with that. And that's why you kind of want to have some type of outdoor knife that has some type of holes in the side of the sheath here, whether it's, you know, a leather sheath like this one right here, or it's a plastic or Kydex sheath, whatever. If you got these holes in it here, then you can actually make a makeshift mounting setup. And, you know, these cable ties right here, these cable holders, these come in 1/2 inch, 3/8, the exact same sizes as these ferro rods, so you don't have to worry about sizing them. So that is basically kind of how you want to set up stuff. Now, let's talk a little bit about the knives. You want to have a knife that's got a 90-degree spine on it. A lot of knives have a 90-degree spine on it, especially nowadays with all the bushcrafting stuff that's going on. But some knives don't have a 90-degree spine on it, so if you want to, you modify your knives. Now, I pretty much modified most of my knives to use them if they didn't already work. And there's 2 reasons why it's nice to have a 90-degree spine on a knife. One is striking your ferro rod, and the other one is making some kind of fuzz or tinder to ignite with your ferro rod. And let me see once here. Like this knife right here, this is a knife that I haven't used much, but it had a coating on it, like this one right here. This is kind of its little brother. You can see there's a coating on here. If you have a coating on the knife, that coating, those thicker coatings, they're not going to allow you to strike on a ferro rod. They will prevent that. So you basically have to take some of that coating off. And what I do is I just take a file. I don't know if you can see it there. I could take a file and I file a little bit of the back of the knife off. That not only gives me a 90-degree spine, it also removes that coating. But then if you're afraid that that's going to, you know, cause rust on a carbon steel knife like this one is, what I do then after I file that off is I take a little bit of cold bluing, like a little perma blue here that you use to touch up you know, scratches and dings on shotguns and rifles and stuff, and I will coat that on there, and that will soak into the metal, and that will make a kind of an oxidized barrier against rust, just like bluing does on a firearm. So that is how I take care of that. Now, some knives, I'm going to show you here, pull one out from over here. Some knives will have some type of bluing type coating on this right here. This is kind of like an oxide type finish that's not an actual coating. This knife will strike just the way it is. So you don't really have to do anything with this right here. I just make sure that I wipe this knife down when I'm done using it so it doesn't rust or anything. But when it's got this type of coating on the knife, like this oxidized coating here, you don't have to worry about that. But a lot of these carbon knives will have, you know, these heavy almost like an epoxy paint coating on them. Those are the ones that you want to modify. But that is basically it. And the other thing is, you know, people talk about the different hardnesses of these. You don't want a ferro rod that is so hard that you can't strike it with a knife. You want the ferro rod to be a little bit on the soft side. Now, they wear a little bit more, but you want a big shower of sparks to ignite when you're making your fire. And then sometimes too, when it comes to handles, you can put a handle on a ferro rod. Like this one right here, I did this one years ago already with a piece of Antler that I had. I actually drilled it out, and then I epoxied the ferro rod into the handle so it doesn't come out. And this is actually a really nice one because it's got this, you know, piece of tine on it right here, so I can hold it like this, and then I can strike my ferro rod. And if you want to do that, I suggest using like at least a 5-minute or a 2-ton epoxy to secure that in the handle. And Antler material is actually really good for putting handles on ferro rods because Antler material is very porous and it absorbs the adhesive really well. Anyway, you guys stick around here. I'm going to go out in the garage by the wood stove, and I'm going to show you a couple of different striking techniques to make fire with all this stuff, and share a few things there. So you guys just stick around. All right, guys, we're going to show a couple of different materials here to ignite with a ferro rod. This right here is a traditional char cloth, and I have done videos on how to make char cloth, but this is a very traditional thing that you would carry in a kit. And all these items here, once they're ignited, you would put into your tinder bundle or your kindling. So anyway, we're going to show this here. We're going to set our couple pieces of char cloth down here. Now we're going to take our knife and we're going to take our ferro rod here. Now, a lot of people will show, taking your knife and then scraping it across the ferro rod, but it's actually better so you don't disturb your fire bundle that you're working on. It's actually better to hold your knife stationary and then take your ferro rod and pull it back like so. And that way you don't disturb your fire bundle by slamming your knife down into it. So let's see if we can't catch a spark here with this char cloth. All right, you can see the little spots there. That is actually an ember burning. So if you give that a little air, you can see how that's kind of taken off. And you would take this piece of char and you would just toss that into your fire bundle, fold that fire bundle over on itself, and then that's one way to ignite that. So that's one way, and we're going to show you a couple others here. All right, guys, here's another thing that you can carry. Again, this is sort of traditional if you don't have a lot of natural things that you can use for tinder. This is basic jute twine. And what you do with this natural jute twine is you'll take that and you'll separate the fibers and you'll make that into a little ball like this. All you do is kind of separate this stuff, roll it a little bit, separate it until you have something that kind of looks like this here. And now we're going to see if we can't get this guy here to fire up. Again, same thing. We're going to take our ferro rod, hold our knife stationary, and we're going to pull our ferro rod back. And you can see it doesn't always work with one strike. And it's the same thing with this. You would take this then, you would have this on a small fire lay, and then you would put that into your other tinder where you would ignite some fine kindling. All right, guys, here's another material that works really well with a ferro rod, and this is birch bark. This is your white paper bark birch, and the same thing with the jute twine. You're going to take some of that off, and you're going to kind of rough that up so it has some edges on it to catch those sparks. And this birch bark has a natural, like, oil in it that helps with the ignition. So we're going to put that there, and again, same thing. Going to hit this with our ferro rod. Adjust it a little bit. See, it's not always perfect. Ooh, I thought I had her there. There we go. And again, then you would take this and you would put that into your tinder bundle with your kindling. And you can see that that actually burns up pretty hot and pretty fast. All right, guys, this is fat wood. This is sort of your premium thing to start fire with. And what this is from dead pine where the sap settles down into a particular spot in the wood, and then it's sort of like a resin impregnated wood. And it's got a sort of an orange color. And this is where the 90-degree spine on the knife helps, not only striking the rod, but you can take the 90-degree spine on the knife and you can kind of rough this up a little bit. And what you'll end up getting is you'll get little fuzzies like this. And you'll get a little bit of a pile like what I got here in this tin. And then this stuff will ignite actually really, really well. So you'll get a little ball of this. And again, just like the other items, you're going to get that ready with, you're going to have your tinder and your kindling bundle off to the side, and you're going to ignite this with a ferro rod and then add that in. I'll show you how this kind of ignites here. And then once stuff is ignited, another thing you can do is you can take what's called a feather stick. And this is a piece of wood, dry wood, that you're going to put a few shavings on it like that. So when that ignites, you can kind of hold this on and ignite this stick, and then that's basically kind of like a match then, and then you can add that into your fire bundle. So that's another way that you can kind of utilize these ferro rods here. Well, I'm going to see if I can't get another fire going here with the fat wood. There we go. And now this is where you take your feather stick and ignite that, and then that would get your fire going. Kind of get this tossed in here. And all right, guys, that is kind of some demos there on some different materials with ferro rods. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, a little demo there showing kind of how it is to ignite different materials. And some of them took a little bit, and that's real life right there. A lot of times you're not going to get a ferro rod to ignite your tinder on the very first try. It's going to take several tries in repetition to get that going. So that is, real world right there, nothing edited out or whatever. But I think it showed a really good example of how the different materials ignite. And another thing with the different materials, every area is going to have their own natural materials that are going to work. It could be, anything from certain kinds of grasses to the inner bark of certain trees, whatever. There's infinite amount of things. That's the thing that everybody has to go out and kind of explore their own area and find out what works best for them. And another thing that I wanted to mention here quick too about a ferro rod. Ferro rods don't have any moving parts. They're not mechanical. They don't have any fuel, so they're not like a Bic lighter. They're going to work when they're wet, but it takes a certain amount of, skill and kind of know-how to make these work. But, they're not going to run out of fuel on you. They're not going to break on you. If they get wet, they're still going to work, and that is one of the kind of the main benefits of a ferro rod that I wanted to mention. But I hope you guys got some information out of this video here that you can apply to your own fire kits, and practice. The more you practice and the more different materials that you use. And if you don't have any material, let's say you're in an urban environment, you don't have any material that you can use some cotton balls soaked in Vaseline. That also will work. And also another thing that'll work, small little bottles of lighter fluid will work. So if you, wherever they sell like Zippo lighters or whatever, a small bottle of like Zippo lighter fluid, that will work as well. You can put a little of that like on a cotton ball, and then that will catch the spark and it will ignite until the fluid burns out. So that's something else that you can do if you don't have any natural materials to work with. But really want to encourage folks to go out and try to find those natural materials that will work in your area. But anyway, I wanted to kind of touch base on all that stuff. I know it's kind of a deep dive here, a little bit longer video, but there was a lot to cover in kind of a short period of time here. But good knives, good long ferro rods, short, small little ferro rods like this that don't give you just a couple little sparks, you could see how difficult that would be to light something if you have something really, really small like that. And, you know, some of them strikers that come with those ferro rods, even bigger ones like that, you're not going to get enough material off that to actually ignite anything. So, and then too, you know, little teeny ferro rods probably aren't going to work. You want something that's longer and beefier like this so you can get that fire going. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys always get some information and some entertainment out of my videos. Anything pertinent to this video, I'll have links in the description for you guys, and you guys have a good one.